Welcome back, everybody, to episode 3 of the CG Sports Podcast. Today, as always, we're going to be doing my NFL predictions. This time, we're going to be doing it for week 3. So we're just going to go through a quick review of last week, talk about the games I got wrong, and then we're going to get straight into this week's predictions. So just a quick review. We went 13-3 on picks last week, which was way better than we did week 1. I think week 1 we went 9-7, I believe. So big improvement. I mean, as I said in episode 2, week 1 just full of upsets, just all over the place. And we went in depth on those too in last week's episode. So I want to start with, we're just going to talk quickly about the 3 games I got wrong. Just get into that quickly, and then we'll get right on. So I want to start with the Cowboys win over Atlanta. So let's just talk about, just to start, this is why I picked Atlanta. For one, Cowboys completely outmatched because of injuries. I mean, they're missing so many guys. Sean Lee, veteran linebacker. Leighton Vander Esch, young linebacker, but, you know, he's a star player in this league. Tyron Smith, this is an all-pro left tackle. This dude is a major part of their team. Blake Jarwin, the current starting tight end. I thought these injuries would just... I thought Atlanta's defense would have no problem. But they had a problem, all right, because they could not get a stop. I mean, they got stops up until the last 6 minutes of the fourth quarter. So let's go into that. Falcons up 16 with 7.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Now, this is nothing new for Atlanta. I mean, Super Bowl 51, let's talk about it. You're up 28-3 with 6 minutes left in the third quarter. You've completely clamped them on defense in the first half. Going through the first half of the third quarter, completely clamping them on defense. They haven't even scored a touchdown yet. They got a lucky field goal. They struggle to get past the 50-yard line. We're talking about Tom Brady, and this dude can't even get past the 50-yard line. And we all know what happened. Atlanta gave up 31 unanswered points and loses the Super Bowl in OT. How they managed to do that, I don't know. Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, blowing leads is nothing new to you. How do you let it happen again? Now I understand the severity is not the same. This is not a Super Bowl. This is not winning your world champions, lose, and you're going to be known for it for the rest of your franchise's history. It was not that serious. It's a regular season game. It's early in the season. I get it. But there was a point in this game where the Falcons were up 9 points with 2 minutes left in the game. Now, 99 out of 100 games, that is, GG, game over. You lost, better luck next week. But this game was one of those games. Atlanta, to put it simply, they took their foot off the gas. I mean, I understand why you're up 16 with 6 minutes, but you can't give this team an opportunity. If you're going to take your foot off the gas, the least you could do is run the ball, milk the clock. They did not do that at all. They kept throwing the ball through the air, and they weren't even killing time. I mean, they went 3 and out, 2-3 drives in a row? That's probably like a minute and a half killed on 3 drives. That's not enough. You can kill a minute and a half on 3 plays if you just run the ball. But they decided not to do that. Now let's talk about this onside kick for a second. Now I had to pull up the rules for an onside kick for just a second. So these are the official NFL rules for an onside kick. The kick must cross the receiving team's restraining line, normally 10 yards in front of the kicking team's line, which is correct, unless the receiving team touches the ball before that line. The kicking team may only recover and retain possession of the kicked ball, but not advance it. So let me simplify that for you. On an onside kick, and keep in mind, Atlanta knew they were going to onside kick. The Dallas Cowboys, when they kicked the ball, they could not pick the ball up until it went 10 yards. It had to go 10 yards, and then they could pick it up, and it would have been their ball. Now, Atlanta, because they're the receiving team, they don't have to wait. They could pick up the ball whenever they want. The second that ball is kicked, some dude can run in and go grab it. They don't have to wait like Dallas. They can go pick up that ball whenever they want. Now, Atlanta, whoever your special teams coach is, whoever those players are, all those dudes, there's no big names on those special teams. Special teams is filled with third and fourth stringers who don't play unless there's like a ton of injuries. Bro, all you're doing in practice is special teams work. You gotta know what you're doing. For you guys who didn't see it, as I explained, the ball needs to go 10 yards for the other team. The Atlanta Falcons did not have to wait. So Greg Zuerlein kicked the ball. He did an onside kick, and it only went about 4 yards. But obviously the ball has a bounce and started rolling. So in my head, I'm like, okay, Atlanta's going to pick up this ball. They're going to get the penalty because Dallas didn't kick it 10 yards, and they're going to kneel the game out. But what Atlanta's special teams, what did they decide to do? They watched the ball. They just looked at it. They looked at it roll 10 yards and watched the Cowboys pick it up. And then once the Cowboys players pick it up, then they want to jump on the ball and try and, make a fight for the ball. But no, it was too late. And even after that, as if you didn't blow a 16-point lead in the last 6 minutes, when you need a stop, you're only up 2 points. You let them drive like 30 yards within like a minute and a half. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of time, but you already blew the lead, man. You gave up an onside kick. The least you could do is take out a win on a desperation defensive stop. But no, you let them drive all the way down, and you let them kick I believe it was a 53-yard field goal to win the game. This is just disappointing. If I'm an Atlanta fan, I'd be so upset right now. It's just a boneheaded play, to put it simply. So we're gonna move on from that one. Next, we're gonna talk about Colts win over the Vikings. I'm gonna keep this simple. Kirk Cousins played a horrible game. No touchdowns, 3 picks. Just I don't even know how to describe this. I get it. You don't have Stephon Diggs. But to play like that is just unacceptable. I get it. No Stephon Diggs, like I said. You still have a top 10 running back in football, a top 10 arguable 5 receiver in football, and you still have a really good tight end. How are you playing so bad? Look, I'll give it to you. Darius Leonard, Colts defense, did an amazing job. Just an amazing job. Colts defense, hell of a game. Just completely outmatched them. So I'll give them credit, but for Minnesota, this is a game that they definitely should have won. Just I severely underrated the Colts this year. I'll put it like that. I thought they would win, maybe 6 games, but they're looking like they could go for 9 to 11 as of right now. So we'll see what they do. So the last game we're going to talk about, Raiders win over the Saints. So despite, we saw a decent outing from the Saints offense, but just no Michael Thomas was the difference maker. I mean, we all knew what this guy was to the offense. He's Drew Brees' main target. We know he's the guy who's getting all the receptions. I mean, last season he broke Marvin Harrison's record for receptions in a single season. That's how much this guy gets the ball. And they just were helpless without him. And that's how it went. I mean, I got to give credit to Derek Carr, 284 yards and 3 touchdowns. I believe Josh Jacobs had about 85 yards and a touchdown. Just great game from the Raiders offense, exactly like the Colts. I underrated the Raiders this year. They look really good early on. So we'll see what comes from them. All right, so now we've done a quick review of last week. We're going to get into this week's game, starting with the Thursday night game, which is going to be the Dolphins and the Jaguars. Of course, battle of 2 Florida teams. Let's get right into it. Dolphins coming off a close last-second loss to the Bills, where for a second, it looked like they were going to upset them. I mean, we saw the Bills week 1. They demolished the Jets. We were expecting nothing different from the Dolphins, but Ryan Fitzpatrick put up a fight, and so did Jordan Howard. So it was a tough one, but, the Bills pulled it out. They did what they had to do. Jaguars, once again, same thing, close loss to the Titans by 3 points. Of course, this game, I think it'll be closely contested. Could come down to a final drive. I'd expect Gardner Minshew pick apart the Dolphins' defense. They're playing without Byron Jones unless he shockingly comes back this week, which I doubt he will. I'd expect solid games from Jordan Howard and Devontae Parker if we're going to talk Miami. Game could go either way, but I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to have himself a day. I think we spoke about Gardner like this last week. I think it's the same thing about Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's a guy who's very on and off. He can have himself a day. One day he'll have 3 touchdowns, no picks, 300 yards, and then the next day he's got 25 yards, no touchdowns, and 3 picks by the end of half. So I think this will be one of his good days. Fitzpatrick goes in. Dolphins win it 24-13. All right, let's get into the Sunday games, starting off with the Niners and the Giants. Niners coming off a win against the Jets last week, coming back to MetLife again, this time for the other, well, I guess New York team, even though they play in Jersey, the other New York team in the Giants. Giants took a close loss to the Bears. I got to say, they had a good shot at the end zone on that last play. I believe they were at around the 25-yard line, got an offensive pass interference, and just lost themselves the game. Giants also lost their star running back in Saquon Barkley last week to an ACL injury, and as of right now, we will not be seeing him for the rest of the season. So I think this loss of Saquon is just going to leave the Giants hopeless, no shot to win this game. I don't even think I have to explain this one. Niners going to dominate on both sides of the ball and take it 34-13. Next up, we got the Washington football team and the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland took a very, very close win over the number one rookie of the year candidate right now in Joe Burrow, Washington took a loss to D-Hop and the Cardinals. Just no answer for that Cardinals offense, to put it simply. I think Nick Chubb, Odell, going to have themselves some days. The Washington's defense, it's okay. It's average, but I don't think it stands a chance on Nick Chubb or Odell. I think Washington's going to put up a decent amount of points. If Dwayne Haskins, gets things going again, Terry McLaurin. But I think they're still going to come up short this week. Cleveland takes it 37-21. Next game we got the Cincinnati Bengals and the Philadelphia Eagles. Bengals, as we just said, lost to the Browns. Very close game. But on a positive note, even though they lost, Joe Burrow, once again, for the second week in a row, looked really comfortable throwing the ball. I mean, come on, 316 yards, 3 touchdowns. Last time we seen that from a rookie must have been Andrew Luck, 2012. Last rookie I've seen play like that. Eagles, on the other hand, another rough game against the Rams. Didn't play well. Wentz, of course, didn't look sharp at all. Forcing passes into double coverage and tight windows, just not making the reads. I think this game is going to come down to injuries for Philly. If these guys can come out and stay healthy and they get a couple more guys back, I think they'll be all right. I think they will be coming back. I believe they reported today that a couple of their starters are going to be coming back this week. So personally, I'd watch for Miles Sanders and Zach Ertz to have big days for the Eagles today. Another thing, we've been seeing this a lot out of Doug Peterson, taking a deep shot early. We see it all the time from this Eagles team. They got fast guys, Jalen Reagor, Deshaun Jackson. These are guys that can get over top of the defense. I would look for one of those early. We see it a lot from them. I'd expect it again this week. I think the Eagles are going to struggle early in this game, but I think a nice second-half speech from Doug Peterson will bring everybody together. Eagles take it in a close one, 24-19. And they're going to get their first win of the season. Next game we got the Raiders and the Patriots. Raiders, of course, coming off an upset victory to the Saints. Patriots lost to Seattle. If you didn't watch that game, they got down to the 1-yard line on the final play, ran a read option, and came up short. I guess it was more of a QB draw. That wasn't really a read, but they ran a QB draw play on the 1-yard line, and Cam just got flipped, man. They shot the gap, Seattle's defense, and it was just no shot at it. Derek Carr, though, let's talk about him again. This guy is playing like a top 10 QB in the league through 2 weeks, 521 yards and 4 touchdowns. Great stats. Same for their running back, as I said, Josh Jacobs, 181 yards and 3 touchdowns. But, the Raiders, they're doing great. They got momentum, but I think they have no answer for Cam Newton. Look at the Seahawks last week. Have a top 2 defense in the entire league and barely came away with a win over Cam Newton. I don't think the Raiders stand a chance. I think Cam Newton's just going to pick them apart. He's I wouldn't say the most, but he's one of the most versatile quarterbacks in the league still, and I think he's going to put it to use. Patriots win at 31-20. Next game, we got the Bears and the Falcons. Bears, as we said, won against the Giants, where they were able to draw a pass interference on the final play. But I got to say, not a bad outing from the Bears. Even though they barely pulled one off on Daniel Jones and company, look good. Falcons, on the other hand, we already spoke. Horrendous loss. Oh, my God. I don't know how you screw up that bad. Bears, of course, riding heavy momentum, but I know I screwed this up with Dallas, but that's Dallas. This is the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears, you're outmatched. Falcons getting their first win of the season this week. Take it 34-20. Next, we got the Rams and the Bills. I think this is going to be a great game, personally. Two pretty evenly matched teams, but, we'll see. So, Rams, of course, coming off an easy win to an Eagles squad that we already spoke about. Bills moved to 2-0 with a last-second win over the Dolphins. I think this, personally, for me, was one of the toughest games to call this week. As we said, two evenly matched teams, but I think the big difference here in comparison to the Jets game and the Dolphins game is the Rams have a legitimate corner. I think Jalen Ramsey's going to lock up Stephon Diggs, and the Bills are just going to have no answer to this stacked defense. I think Aaron Donald's going to be putting on the pressure. Jalen Ramsey locking up on the, in the secondary, and I think the Rams are just going to put it on them. I mean, if you watch the first 2 weeks from the Bills, Stephon Diggs was a huge part of the offense, as you would expect. And I think once a team comes up with an answer for him, which I think the Rams will, I don't think the Bills are just going to be able to counter it or make adjustments. So Rams offense shouldn't have any problems. I'd expect Goff to throw for at least 2, maybe 3 touchdowns. Rams going to take it 30-17. Next, we got Houston Texans and Pittsburgh Steelers. Texans, they're starting 0-2, but can you really blame them? They played against the Chiefs week 1, and then they get the Ravens week 2. They're playing the 2 best offenses in all of football. Steelers, on the other hand, 2-0, actually. They beat the Broncos last week, got a huge stop on 4th down in the final 2 minutes of the game. We saw a huge run from James Conner to put them from maybe their own 30 into Denver's 5-yard line. Huge run by James Conner. At that point, the Broncos still had a chance to get the ball back too, so nice way to ice the game. I think Watson, the Texans, going to play well on offense, but I think their big problem is going to be on defense. Now, don't get me wrong. The Texans, they played against some good offensive teams, so they're partially excused. So I'll give them that, but still, I don't think their defense is good enough for Juju and James Conner. Look for those two to have some big days once again. Steelers take it in a close one, 24-17. Next game we got Titans and Vikings. Titans, as we said, took a close 3-point game to the Jaguars. Vikings, also as we said, lost last week to the Colts. I think the Vikings just continue to prove that they can't be successful without Stephon Diggs, and they can't contend for this division right now. I don't even know. It's arguable that they're the worst team in the division, straight up. I know it's been the Lions for a while, but right now, the Vikings are looking at taking that spot. So, I think the big difference maker here will be Anthony Barr out this week, as well as Danielle Hunter. So, I see no reason why Derrick Henry can't run for 200 this week. I know it sounds crazy, but I don't see a reason why Derrick Henry can't run for 200 this week. So, I expect absolute domination from the Titans this week. Expect at least 1 touchdown from Dalvin Cook and maybe 1 from Thielen for Minnesota, just for, your own entertainment. But no chance at the win, the way I see it. Tennessee takes it 38-24. Next game we got the Panthers and the Chargers. Panthers lost to the most powerful offense in the league last week in the Bucs. Completely outmatched. Chargers, of course, lost to the Chiefs last week in overtime, where they seemed to have full control of the game up until the final 6 minutes. We were seeing nothing out of Kansas City, man. They just looked horrendous. But, even with that overtime loss, the guy, Justin Herbert, he's a rookie, but he played extremely well. He threw for 300 yards, got a passing and rushing touchdown against a Chiefs defense that is top 10 in the league. So, he looked good. I'd expect a similar game, but Of course, for the Panthers, no Christian McCaffrey, going to be a huge problem for however long he's out. I believe they said he was out for 8 weeks as of right now. But I'd expect solid games still for the Panthers. Teddy Bridgewater, Robbie Anderson. But it's just not going to be enough to take down the Chargers. I think Justin Herbert throwing for another 2 touchdowns at least, 200-plus passing yards once again. Chargers taking it 27-17. Next game we got the Jets and the Colts. As we said, Jets came off a loss to the Niners where they just were simply outmatched. I mean, when you're coached by Adam Gase, I don't really think you have a chance to win. Colts, as we said, beat Minnesota, who have absolutely struggled. But, I mean, even the Jets, they lost, but Sam Darnold, he didn't look bad last week. The defense for the New York Jets is really where they struggle. I think, both teams' offense will work perfectly fine, but the Jets' defense is just going to struggle too badly. I think the Jets' defense is going to screw them up for the second week in a row. Phillip Rivers is going to have himself a day once again. Colts win it 27-16. Next game, we got another really exciting game this week. We got the Cowboys and the Seahawks. We already spoke on the Cowboys. They basically got handed a win by boneheaded players. Seattle, as we said, also won a close game. Goal line stop on the 1-yard line. Amazing play, just because I want to mention it. Amazing play by Seattle's defense. Pete Carroll, whoever their defensive coordinator is, because I personally don't know. Great play call. I mean, they just sent the heat. I mean, they knew where the ball was going, and they got to it. So, all credit to Seattle's defense, because it's not easy to get a stop in the goal line. Cowboys offense looks really good, I must say. Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Zeke, all these guys, they look great out there, I mean, they're playing through some injuries, as we spoke on, but their offense doesn't seem to be having any kind of problems. But, of course, got to talk about it. Their injuries on the defensive side of the ball, it's going to be a problem. I think Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Greg Olsen, Chris Carson, taking full advantage of an injured Cowboys defense. I think Seattle's defense is really going to be able to contain. I mean, they got some guys on there, mainly, Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams, just all around great players. I think they're going to contain Dallas. I think Dallas will still, they'll be all right. They'll put some points up. But I just think Seattle is just the better team. Cowboys are injured. Maybe this game would have been a little closer if they were at full strength, but that's not the way things work. So Seattle takes it 38-16, and Cowboys finally get the loss they deserved. Next game we got the Detroit Lions and the Arizona Cardinals. Lions last week fell to 1-1 after losing to just a stacked Packers team. They had no shot. Kyler Murray, on the other hand, for the Redskins. I'm sorry, not the Redskins, the Cardinals. Kyler Murray looked amazing last week. He played the Redskins, that's why I said that, so I apologize for that. Kyler Murray, 286 yards and a touchdown, and added 2 rushing touchdowns, just for good measure, Took down the Redskins with these. Matt Stafford, on the other hand, Adrian Peterson, they looked good last week, but that Packers team, Zadarius Smith, just a bunch of great players, Jair Alexander, just a ton of playmakers and just absolute ballers on that Green Bay defense. I think the big issue for this week will be the Lions defense. I mean, we saw them last week, no answer. Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, just no answer for any of those guys. I think depending on how they play, it's going to really decide the fate of this game. If the Lions figure something out, they manage D-Hop, Kyler Murray, maybe they got a shot. But personally, I don't think the Lions defense is going to get it done this week. Cardinals take it 27-21. Next game, got the Bucs and the Broncos. Now, this game has got to be if you're gonna put all your life savings into a game, it's this one. Bucs and Broncos. Bucs, let's just review last week. Bucs took an easy win over the Panthers. No Christian McCaffrey, so it was free. Broncos, on the other hand, as we spoke about, lost to the Steelers. They had a legitimate chance to win in the final 2 minutes. I mean, if you watched the game, you saw Noah Fant made an amazing catch on the sidelines, brought them into field goal range, but obviously they needed the touchdown, and they just were unable to get it. So just let's talk about it. Broncos, tons of injuries to their stars. No Von Miller, no A.J. Boye, no Phillip Lindsay, no Cortland Sutton. All those guys ruled out. But they are going to have their QB back this week. I mean, we saw Drew Lock went down. We saw Jeff Driscoll come in for Denver week 2. Played all right, nothing crazy. Overall, this is the game to bet on. If you're going to put money on a game, it's this one. Bucks going to take this one with ease. I don't even think I have to explain. Brady, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Ronald Jones, LaShawn McCoy, Rob Gronkowski. All these guys, just no answer from the Broncos, especially not with all those injuries. Bucks take it 41-16 in a breeze of a win. Next up, we've got Packers and Saints. Packers, of course, won an easy game over the Lions, as we spoke about, moved to 2-0. Saints lost on an upset to the Vegas Raiders. And, this, of course, a matchup of two top 10 to 15 QBs of all time. I mean, we got an Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees matchup. This should be very interesting. I think this is going to be a very exciting game, very high-scoring game. Just as we spoke about, I believe, in Week 2, I'd expect 7 to 10 total touchdowns to be scored. I'm sorry, that was Week 1, Saints-Bucks. Yeah, I'd expect 7 to 10 total touchdowns scored. I think the big factor to this game is whether or not Michael Thomas plays, because as we saw from last week, the offense really struggles without him. But from what we've seen so far, Michael Thomas is expected to play. So I think the Saints take it in a very close game, 41-34, and bounce back from an upset loss. And now the final game of the week. Look, if you're busy this week, please, with anything you can do, please watch this Monday night game. We got the Chiefs going to Baltimore to play the Ravens. Easily the best and most exciting game of the week, maybe even the whole season. We're talking about a game of the two best offenses in the league. We're talking about the last two MVPs facing off against each other. We're talking about two of the top 5 fastest players in the league going up against each other. Let's get straight into it. Chiefs, as we said, coming off a win against the Chargers, struggled early, came out on top. I think they're going to come back good as new, go back to their old ways, and just start putting up points. Ravens destroyed the Texans last week. Lamar went off that week, 200 yards, and he also rushed for another 50. Just great all-around game. Both teams playing at full strength, so injuries will not be a factor. We'll get a full matchup here. And I expect, like the Packers-Saints game, an absolute shootout between Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. I cannot wait. Once again, expect 7 to 10 touchdowns. As I said, it's an absolute shootout. I expect huge games from all the offensive stars on both sides of the ball. So just to name a few, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Tyreek Hill, Hollywood Brown, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Mark Ingram, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Just all these offensive weapons and juggernauts. I expect them all to go crazy this week. I think this game is simply going to come down to which team can get a stop. I think Chiefs' defense is all around better. And that's simply going to be the reason why they win. I mean, maybe if the Ravens had Earl Thomas, if he wasn't such a issue, they'd win this game. But they don't. And the Ravens defense just did not look prepared for Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, and Sammy Watkins. And Travis Kelce. So for your final game of the week, Chiefs take it 48-41 in an absolute shootout. And that's it for this week. That's all my week 3 predictions. Look out for episode 4, which will be my NBA Finals predictions. We're going to go fully in depth on that. We're just waiting to see who wins the Celtics and Heat series. So we'll see what happens with that. And I will see all you guys in a couple days when that episode comes out. Peace.